Welcome back to another Fireside Chat. Today, I want to discuss a little bit of polling data that came out yesterday, which, quite frankly, has me a bit concerned over the long-term health of our democracy. The poll at issue is this CBS News YouGov poll, which asked likely voters about the rationale behind their vote for Congress in the upcoming midterms. 32% of respondents stated that their vote was designed to oppose Donald Trump, while 20% of respondents stated that their vote was to support Donald Trump. The remaining 47% simply stated that this election is not about Trump at all. So, what's my concern here? On the surface, this is a pretty run-of-the-mill poll. You've got the people who will always support Donald Trump, the people who will never support Donald Trump, and then everybody else just trying to figure out what candidate best represents their views and will hopefully make their lives a little bit better. But the part that concerns me is that when you add up all of the likely voters who are going to cast their ballot this November based on their opinion of Donald Trump, that's over 50% of likely voters. And I fear that this is the continuation of a growing trend where Americans are voting based on popularity rather than actual policy. Now, what do I mean by that? Essentially, this style of voting mirrors other types of single-issue voting, where people judge candidates solely based on their position on a particular issue. In the past, this has been things like the Second Amendment, abortion rights, immigration at times. There's a whole host of other issues that have been the sole focus of certain voting groups. And Donald Trump essentially has become no different than that. A lot of people will go in and choose their candidate to vote for based solely on their relationship with Donald Trump. And we've seen this both in the general and in the primaries. A lot of Republican primaries came down to which candidate is the most Trumpy or who got that Trump endorsement. And it didn't really matter what their policy views were. Just like Donald Trump doesn't care what his policy views are. His policy platform tends to be whatever gets the biggest reaction from the crowd he's in front of. And the reason this is dangerous for the health of a democracy is that we stop evaluating candidates based on their actual policy goals. And the point of being an elected member of government is to enact policy. So if you stop evaluating people on their ability to create useful policy and instead focus on their relationship to a very specific issue, in this case Donald Trump, you lose out on the ability to gauge whether these people should be in government and whether they're actually going to be able to, once they get there, implement effective policy. Now, if you want an example of the potential consequences of voting based on popularity rather than policy, we don't have to look any farther than the 2016 presidential election and the Libertarian candidate, Gary Johnson. Now, throughout that election cycle, I kept hearing his name pop up, and it was always in the same context. People would say, I don't like Donald Trump, I don't trust Hillary Clinton, so I'm not going to vote for either of them. I'm going to vote for this Gary Johnson guy. And, I hadn't heard of him at the start, so I was like, okay, well, what is he? What does he believe in? He's a third-party candidate in the U.S. Since when have they ever mattered? And generally, I got this blank stare, and it's like, I don't know, but I don't care, because he's not Donald Trump and he's not Hillary Clinton, and that's enough for me. Well, it was enough for them, certainly, but it wasn't enough for yours truly, so I decided, alright, let's learn a little bit about the guy, because if he's getting this much traction, he might be onto something. You never know. So I started researching, and the more I found out, the more I realized why Gary Johnson should never hold elected office. And I won't get into everything now. I will leave a link in the video description to a John Oliver piece where he goes very in-depth into all of Gary Johnson's bizarre policy objectives, but needless to say, they had absolutely no chance of being functional in any way, shape, or form. And once I was armed with this information, people would bring up Gary Johnson. I would say, oh, well, again, what do you know about him? People would say, I don't really know anything. And I would say, well, let me tell you about him. And then I would tell people about his bizarre tax scheme to replace all government taxes with this consumption tax and how the numbers would never add up to the actual government budget in any way, shape, or form. And a few other things that were kind of crazy that he believed. And then they would be like, he does? They'd be like, yeah, and I'd link them to the sources, and they'd be like, maybe I shouldn't vote for him then. I go, yeah, that's probably a good idea. He doesn't belong in government. Now, who they went on to vote for, I don't know. I didn't ask. It wasn't my place. But here we can see how once you know what a candidate actually stands for on their policy side, and you're not just judging it based on a single issue like popularity or some other kind of niche issue, you can see how maybe these people aren't quite as qualified to run the US government as you initially thought. So, when you're heading to the polls this November, take some time to learn everything that your candidate stands for. And even if you have to make a few compromises because they don't perfectly reflect your views, at least you know what they stand for and you can hold them accountable. Think about it. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more of my content, subscribe to the channel and make sure to hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post new videos. If you want to support me on my other social media platforms, all of the links you need will be in the video description below. If you have any questions about this video or another topic that you'd like me to discuss, leave me a comment and I'll do my best to get you an answer. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.